an element that LGBTQ matchmakers take into play is masculine, feminine energy. So I, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being hyper masculine, I put myself right in the middle, 5 and 6. Oh yes, girl, I can girl out, but then if I need to, I just, put on my boy pants. And then when I go out, I got maybe my girl pants on. But my husband, I've always been attracted to people more masculine than me. And there's a lot to be said about that dynamic. But then also the same thing goes with women, lesbians in particular. A very feminine woman wants more of a masculine facing person. And we've all seen that through Ellen.
Hello, welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. I am your host, May Bugenhagen. Today I have a great guest. His name is Tony Smith. He is founder, owner, and Cupid for Denver's Cupid, Colorado's gay matchmaker. Denver's Cupid is the only LGBTQ matchmaking service in Colorado and one of only a few in the USA. Tony specializes in the art of matchmaking and the power of connection via personal, private, and boutique matchmaking, along with social and speed dating events. Welcome to the show, Tony. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you so much. And it's so good to see your smiling face.
It's always lovely to hang out with fellow Coloradans. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about, gay dating, what you can advise my audience, probably straight audience, women and men, but from a gays matchmaker's point of view, and probably from all of your experience throughout these years, I want your point of view. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got started, and then we'll jump into the questions?
Yes. And going back to one of your first statements about yourself and me, I am very proudly half Filipino. My mother's from Baguio, Philippines, and my father is Caucasian American. But I was raised with my mother throwing a lot of Filipino disco parties. And I saw the power of bringing people together, the joy it brings people, eating food together, celebrating together, and something my mom always did all growing up. And it could be, I'll just say it's a Filipino trait. I'll just claim it and own it. My mom would never forget what people needed. And people would come over to the house. They said, hey, do you know someone who does something? And if she didn't know, it would just hit her at some odd time. And she'd call them out and goes, you remember you needed something? And then, of course, all growing up, like maybe all Asian kids, some young girl would come into the house and my mom would try to introduce us. And finally, she found out that I wasn't so much interested in the girls. But so I just grew up seeing my mom connect people. But then, and with those parties, it became a love of special event production. So for 18 years, I was with the Cherry Creek Arts Festival here in Denver. And so my job was to bring 350,000 people to Cherry Creek North every year, every 4th of July weekend. And I know this is a little long story short. I'm almost there. But when a certain president was elected, I was inspired to run for Denver City Council back in 2016. And people said, oh, Tony, you know everybody. You need to run for office. And my platform was connecting people to government. And that's how we got the 2016 election. And I ran for office. I didn't make it. I earned nearly 3,000 votes in my district. It was great. I ran as an openly gay candidate. And I ran on the platform of connection and knowing your neighbor. Well, that didn't completely work out. But then the next thing the universe said was, you're a matchmaker. And I was like, what? What? I was like, what does that even mean? So I looked into the industry and quickly found out that there were no LGBTQ matchmakers, number one in Denver, let alone, throughout the United States. At first, I was going to be with a local company to head up their LGBTQ arm. But I quickly realized, like so many businesses, everyone has a niche. And you have to focus on your niche. And I said, oh, absolutely, LGBTQ community. And one thing that when I'm working with my personal matchmaking clients, I always say, I've been in Denver for 20 years and I pretty much know everybody. I love that everyone says that. And if I don't, I'm 1 degree separation. And I also say, if they're not in my database, in my personal, I'll say Rolodex because of my age, my personal address book, or on my Facebook page, I'm only 1 degree separation from them. But it's my desire to bring people together because it truly makes the world a better place the more people we know.
Yeah, I agree. I know you're pretty active in the speed dating and events around Denver. So what are some of your suggestions for singles to prepare for those events, and how do they outshine the other singles who come?
I love that question. I'd say the number one thing I always say in my prelude when I'm about to start speed dating is I say, number one, pat yourself on the back. You are here. You're putting yourself out there. That is the hardest thing to do, period. My one of my mantras in life is get off the bench and into life. And you've taken that first step to put yourself out there. And then I say, you're here. Now you're only going to go on these quick 5-minute dates. You have nothing to lose. Be your best person. And every single time is a brand new opportunity. Take a deep breath and give it all that you've got. And what I also love about speed dating versus the apps is you're no longer swiping left and right. This is your personal intuition. I think that's one thing that personal matchmakers will bring to the equation, is that something apps don't do, is how do you feel about it? And so I ask people to say, how do you feel about that person when you first meet them? That first 30 seconds is a great first impression. I'd say that ways to excel at speed dating or dating period is before you arrive, and this is something I communicate with people before they get to speed dating, is what is your intention? What are you telling yourself before speed dating? Which you could also use with any date. It's, before a date, I always recommend people, hey, before the date, get your head in the game, walk around the block, take a deep breath and say, I am bad. I'm a badass. I deserve this. I deserve what the universe gives me. I'm putting my energy out there. I'm putting my energy into this experience. And just like everything in life, you get out what you put in. So when people go speed dating, number one, you're putting yourself out there. You're going to be great. Oh, and then the other thing, of course, I can go down the long list of how to shine, as you are very well aware, but along with intention and putting yourself out there, it's like dress for success, be authentic you. What is, what do you want to say? You're not business casual. Who are you? Wear that and be authentic with that and shine. And that people pick up on that energy. And I think that's what you have to bring. And I've seen time and time again at all the speed dating tables, the people that are kind of, and I just want to like raise their shoulders back up. And, maybe that's a good piece of advice I don't usually say is, what is your body posture? And there's so many websites about body language and looking people in the eye. Like right now, I think, with Zoom dates, it's so important to tell people to look at that stupid little dot. That's the camera, because then you're making eye contact, and try to move the Zoom camera to be as close as possible to that. So you're not going like that, but you're looking over to the side while you're talking forward. So I highly recommend that for Zoom dates, and I'm full of it. Sorry.
No, that's good point. I mean, to mentally prepare and say, okay, what is my intention going on this speed dating or going on these dates, special events or whatever, one-on-one date? Like, what is your purpose? And if you're not going to get dressed for it and take it seriously, then why bother showing up, right? Like, that's a huge mistake if you're just going through the motions and not really taking it seriously. Like, okay, I want to meet someone great. This is how I want to come off to others, and this is how I want to express myself. So that's a good point. Very good point. I know a lot of times we're so caught up in asking people questions. Do you suggest men and women fire off questions, or should they just express how they feel with different opinions, and hopefully their partner will just catch on and start a conversation? Like with statements versus questions?
I love that question. I think one of the things that I have in my date toolkit is active listening. So it's kind of the opposite, but it's not just being an active listener, but it's also being an engaged listener. So it's like, if you're asked a question, it's don't just answer it yes or no. I've been in so many TV media interviews where your coach, don't just say yes or no. Say the answer and elaborate on why you thought that. Was that a good movie? Yes. It's like, oh my God, I love the passion. And why did she actually have to let him die at the end of Titanic. I mean, couldn't he have fit on that door? I mean, come on, let's talk about that. And then it could lead to other things. But in the active listen, it's a balance of, like even hearing myself talk, I'm like, Tony, it's time to stop. It's knowing when to stop talking to allow the other person to talk.
I like when I talk to people, whether it's just my husband or friends, and they talk, maybe they say, couple sentences, couple minutes, and then they stop and they say, well, what do you think? I feel like that's such an easy way to get the conversation going. If someone just tells their story or whatever, and then pause and say, well, what do you think about that, Tony? Because someone else's opinion and idea is great, but is not a complicated question. It's just a very easy conversation topic opening question. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I love that. And that's good advice. I'll have to remember that one too.
So knowing what you know, being a matchmaker of all these years and, setting people up, what are some tips that you can give to the gay or straight community in the Asian community, if you will?
I would say, what's really important, just like we were talking earlier about niches with matchmakers. There are Jewish matchmakers, Asian matchmakers, LGBTQ matchmakers. One of the things that also enforces my idea of get off the bench and into life is start with what you already know. Oh, my husband and I love cars. So when I'm talking to clients and friends, I always ask people to get involved with things they already like. And then when you go to places that you already like and are maybe part of your tribe, like the Filipino American Association, go there if you want to meet other Filipino people, be a part of those associations. When I moved to Denver in 2000, I didn't know anybody. My instinct simply said, Tony, you're a festival producer, get involved with events. And ironically, on this call, my very first organization was the Colorado Dragon Boat Festival, which is Colorado's largest Asian festival. I said, hey, let me lend my expertise to fellow Asians because I'm an event producer and they're producing a brand. It happened to be year one of the Dragon Boat Festival. It's dating myself, but hanging around people like you. And so I'm a huge proponent of, I'm listening on all my conversations. What are they into? One of my clients loves to play piano. So I went through my Rolodex. I said, oh my gosh, are you a part of the Denver Gay Men's Chorus? You're going to meet other people like you. And that's also a great place to find potential dates. My husband and I met through volleyball. And so I always tell people, when you're going to things that you already love, that means you're going to have that in common with you already. And then also with a lot of those affinity things that you like in particular, there are going to be other aspects that mirror your personal values. And, we find volleyball to be not just a hobby, but a set of values. You do your personal best. It's social. It's active. It's healthy. There are rules. And so my husband and I have one of our shared values is justice. And so in any sports, you've got rules. So those are the tips I give to people is get off the bench in at the game and just start being social in a way that's comfortable for you to meet other people like you. Therefore, you're going to probably meet someone that you might be able to fall in love with.
I think that is so important what you said, Tony, to find a hobby or interest that you can excel at as well. And that's where you shine, right? If you're confident about something and you know a lot about something, you can speak with confidence and you can speak with knowledge and wisdom. And I think that's a great way. Like if I was totally into cooking, that's what I would do. Join some kind of cooking class or find a place where I can volunteer my time and cook or something where this is what you like to do, then you might as well try to pair that up with potentially meeting other people. And you may or may not find your partner in life, but at least you're already doing something that you want to do, right? So that's a great way. I mean, it's mind-boggling when I interview a client and I ask them what hobbies and interests they have. and they really can't name 5 or 10 hobbies that they like or things that they're interested in. And that's when you're like, okay, you need to find some things that you're interested in and develop it and be passionate about. Or maybe they just don't know those things that they do are interesting to other people, but you just never know. You will find your person if you just tell them what you're interested at, right? Like you just go and find groups and associations and organizations that you can bond with people. I mean, do you ever get clients where they just think they're boring because they don't have any interests? And how do you get them to come out of their shell and to develop some hobbies and interests?
I think that it's, I always start with their profile and the kinds of things that they've already let me know that they do. And so one of the other things that I offer my clients is building their social network. I love inviting people to things. And if I know something that might be a perfect fit, I'll do that. And so that's another way for me to find out more things that they're into, is to get them out into events that my client and I will have in common. And one of those things that I actually very proud of this. I had a single lesbian mom client that had a 100% custody of their kid. And I said, you know what? The best way to meet someone else that another lesbian that either has kids or wants kids is to form what exists to this day. Very proud of it. It's LGBTQ Family Colorado. And it's a way for LGBTQ families to come together and meet people like them. I said, if I have a single lesbian mom client, you need to probably meet another lesbian mom that's also single, because they have all the mom things in common. They both have to care for their kids. They have a lot of shared things in common. And sometimes maybe because they're a single mom, single dad, they don't have time to do their hobbies and they're just raising their kid. The other thing that I created LGBTQ Family Colorado for was the importance of kids growing up seeing 2 moms and 2 dads. Because you go to school and you'll see a male female mom and dad, and I don't want those kids to feel different. So the more that they feel normal in the world, they don't carry that on their back as some kind of self-esteem inhibiting issue into the future. And so that's something I'm very proud of. We've got one coming up that's going to be at Wash Park. Going to be great, safe place for everybody, the families, the kids. And that's just another place for other people to do the job that I cannot, and that is other people can help them find what they're passionate about.
And if someone is an extrovert or pretty outgoing or just want to start a group, they can just start a meetup group, right? And whatever their interests are, and try to find those people so they can hang out with them and be friends with them and potentially find a romantic partner.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say I recently discovered Meetup, but I've started using it a lot more recently. There is it's called the LGBTQ Connectors group, and it is just another networking group. There is the Big Gay Dinner on Meetup, and it more specifically, yes, it is about big giant gatherings at, you name it, bar. It doesn't have to be a gay place. But people just gather and eat. But that one more specifically is for older gentlemen. So you can find whatever you want. I'm so glad you brought that up on Meetup. And that's how I first started taking some volleyball lessons. But yeah, it's all on Meetup. And I just discovered, and I haven't done this, I don't know if you have, but you can pay for an account so that you could promote your event on Meetup. And I'm like, oh, one more monthly expense. But I was like, I don't know if I need another marketing arm, but yeah, Meetup is awesome.
So what tips would you give for the average single person who does online dating when they're in their 40s or 50s?
Well, I have discovered that there are, silver singles and that kind of thing. I think it's, again, about putting yourself out there and also trying things you've never tried. I know that, I'm in my 50s, and I can see as we get older, we get, as they say, quote unquote, set in our ways. you know what you like and all this kind of stuff. And that's a harder, more challenging part working with older clients, is that set in their ways thing. But then I also say, listen, are you ready to take some chances and do things you've not done before? You're about to go on some blind dates. You're gonna be going to places you've not been before. I need for you to, that's when we grow, is when we change and evolve. So I think one of the number one things to answer your question is being willing to try new things and ask friends, and literally ask friends for help. Say, hey, listen, I'm single. I need for you to help me find people that I can date. And where else can I do that? Instead of, because people have their set groups of friends, right? That's part of a matchmaker's job, is to bust you out and try new things and try new people. And also Zoom date across the United States. As we get older, people are more willing to relocate so that they have that lifelong companion when they're, in their 50s and 60s and beyond. So I think it's being willing to try new things, but then also it's about adopting technology. I love that so many of our older adults have adapted Zoom into their life thanks to the pandemic. But that's also something, I'm a commissioner for the Denver Commission on Aging, and recommend people follow that on Facebook. We are constantly putting out the resources for older adults. An older adult is the group of people 50 plus. I'm like, what? But you're only as old as you feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, AARP already sent me a membership, and I was like, huh, okay. I mean, I guess I'm gonna get discounts and stuff. Might as well be a member, and I'll need it for the rest of my life now, right? So you could get discounts on renting cars, vacations, phones, like all this stuff. So yeah, I will definitely take advantage of that. But speaking of taking advantage, how would one take advantage of their friends to increase their social network to meet other people? Like, what would you suggest that they just invite themselves to different parties and dinner parties at someone's house, or throw their own parties? Like, how would you go about meeting more people that you normally wouldn't meet? Because we're so caught up in our circle at work, our current circle friends, but how do you break out and meet different people? What do you suggest these older adults do in their 40s and 50s?
I'd say it's first about being authentic, and I think that's also something that comes into play with dating, period. Dating and finding that forever person is your personal inventory, your personal history of where you've been. And also I say, is there anything in your life that keeps repeating itself that needs to be addressed? This is that introspection time. This is, hey, seeing a therapist is awesome. It doesn't mean any kind of weakness. That means you're looking inward, and ask those hard questions that you were just asking me to a therapist, and also to your friends, and asking your friends for help. I had someone that say, Tony, I'm recently single again. I feel I'm out of the loop. What can I do? And then I instantly just think of, okay, who are you? What do you like to do? All right, hey, how about this person? Try that. But then also, yes, it is about breaking boundaries, and maybe some might say social rules about inviting yourself to things. But no one gets anywhere in life by being timid. You have to ask for what you want. And I love my mom. One of my mom's favorite sayings was always, you never know until you ask.
That's
Do you know,
true.
how many free shots I've gotten just by being authentically fun about it, and not being, a dick or anything.
Right.
I'll just be like fun about it. But you just never know until you ask. And if it enters your brain, ask, and you shall receive.
I also feel like people who don't have a lot of friends, there's a reason why they don't have a lot of friends, is because they don't go around inviting people to do things with them. I feel like that's the same way for people who want to date, right? You have to put yourself out there, and you got to flirt a little bit. Like, as a woman, you can flirt with a guy, a little bit. It's harmless, right? Flirting is harmless. It means you don't care about what the outcome is. You're just having a good conversation and having fun and, giving someone a compliment and looking at them in a fun way. But I feel like if you just put yourself out there, that people will invite you to things, or you would ask them like, "Hey, Tony, next time you're having a dinner party, can you invite me?" It doesn't matter if you're inviting all couples or all single people. It's just invite me. I just want to be expanding my social circle and doing something new. And you never know who you'll meet. And then if you're at this dinner party with all couples, they might ask you, "Hey, are you paired off with anybody?" "No, I'm not. I'm looking." And now you have the attention of five other couples who might rack their brain and think of a potential person for you, especially if they like you and hang out with you and have dinner with you and have great conversation. So you just always have to be at your best behavior and be the most entertaining and fun and be yourself, authentic, of course. But you never know. Someone might have somebody for you. Maybe it's their coworker or their neighbor or their cousin or brother or sister. So if you kind of look at your social network that way, you can meet a lot of different people and new people, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said really struck a chord with me that is so important, and it's the general golden rule of what goes around comes around, right? Is if you don't feel like you're being invited to parties, maybe it's because you're not throwing any parties. And sometimes in the back of my mind, someone will say, "Tony, you didn't invite me to this party," or, they'll be so bold as to say something like that. And then in the back of my mind, I'll say, "When was the last time you invited me to something?"
Right.
It's not about you know,
Tit for tat.
tit for tat, yeah. But it's more like you get out what you put in,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to. So it's the aggressive dating, or it's more assertive dating. That means you're putting the energy into the universe about, I'm looking for love. So then you're creating this energy vortex, and that's how things happen in the world. I feel for sure.
So when you met your husband, it was at volleyball, and was it like sparks right away, or how did you develop that chemistry, or how did you realize, that he is a great guy. I would like to get to know him more.
Oh, I just got chills. So I'm so proud. We're celebrating our 20th year this year. I moved to Denver in 2000 and we met in 2002. So starting in November 2022, this is our 20th year.
Wow.
But the
Awesome.
very first time we met, it was at a volleyball tournament. It was hard, strong, slow passing glances. And that was it. That was April 2002 at DU at a volleyball tournament.
You were at a different team. You played against each other, or?
Just
Okay.
passing each other randomly. And then September of that year, I saw him again on playing grass at Cheeseman Park. And as we were talking about, you never know until you ask. And then also putting yourself out there, I said, I'm going to get on the same court as that hot guy. I was not at their level, but I found a way to get on the court. I got on the court and we just started flirting. So yes, flirting is important. And then after volleyball, it always happens. Almost any sport, any gathering, people have an after party. And I just simply said, "Hey, you want to go grab margaritas at Benny's?" And we went.
Just the two of you.
Just the two of us. And my mama didn't raise no fool. I got a really strong picture of margaritas because I wanted some of that. And it also loosens things up, and there's lots of ways to loosen up without alcohol, but we got loosened up, we walked around the park, and then it's all she wrote after that. But then at the time I was dating somebody, he was dating somebody, and I'm very proud. I broke up with my boyfriend first. You're very welcome. And I never let him forget that. But then we just kept dating. And I said, he's a little different than people I've ever dated, which I love that matchmakers do. We say, I know you always want this, but I really feel this. Try that. And he wasn't the number one things he checked the boxes, and that's what matchmakers do, right? We say, oh, you're looking for this age, this ethnicity, this religion, all those things. He checked the boxes of tall and blonde and hot. And then all the other stuff I just discovered along the way, and that it really started before gym. And I think this is the magic of love, is when you've done your own work on yourself and you've recognized your patterns, you're like, oh, my big lesson in life has been self-care. And the minute I got my shit together is when I met Jim. But I kept meeting people along the way that the universe was like, you need to learn this, you need to learn that, you need to learn that. And that's why one of my mantras and tips for people is date and date often, because you're test driving all the cars. Do I like stick shift? Do I like leather? What do I like? Do I want an SUV? All those things is the more you date. And that's why I love speed dating is you hear yourself talk. And when you hear yourself talk, you reaffirm what you're about and what you need, what you want. And so I just kept wanting to see him. And 2 years down the road, we bought the house that we're looking to finally sell after 20 years. But it just kept growing and growing and growing.
That's a great story. I love it. I love it. I mean, you said something very important is that you should date people that your matchmaker suggests or someone different, because if you've been dating 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the same person that you're looking for, okay, you're the common denominator. It's not working out. So you got to expand and give other people a shot. I feel like everybody who's dated 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years looking for the same guy, same girl, maybe you just need to tweak what you're looking for a little bit. And I think that's where you hire a matchmaker and they find somebody for you who you should be meeting versus who you want to be meeting, someone who you need to be meeting. So I like that. I like how when I get clients and they are very open-minded because they realize how closed-minded they were, and they say, okay, May, I'll meet whoever you tell me I should meet within the criteria that he or she gives me. But yes, if someone meets 80% of what you're looking for on that crappy, imaginary, hard, tough finding list, then just meet them. It's not an arranged marriage. You know, you're not going on your first date in a tuxedo to get married. You're not going to your first date in a wedding dress. Like, just go out on a date. It's not an arranged marriage, you know? So that's a beautiful story, Tony. I mean, I love when people tell me about how they met their partners because they think back, right? They reflect back. It's a happy memory. I think everyone should be telling people how they've met, you know, like all the men should be telling their guy friends how they met their wives and just to relive that moment, you know, because that's what makes you happy. Like your endorphins and your adrenaline and all that goes up when you think of happy things.
Absolutely. And, something else you mentioned was a criteria of, and that's what, that differentiates matchmakers from apps is, sure, apps have all their algorithms checking the boxes, but something that might be interesting for your viewers is one thing that is an element that LGBTQ matchmakers take into play and it's on my personal my profile system at Denver's Cupid is masculine, feminine energy. So I, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being hyper masculine, I put myself right in the middle, 5 and 6. Oh yes, girl, I can girl out, but then if I need to, I just put on my boy pants. And then when I go out, I got maybe my girl pants on. But my husband, I've always been attracted to people more masculine than me. And there's a lot to be said about that dynamic. But then also the same thing goes with women, lesbians in particular. A very feminine woman wants more of a masculine facing person. And we've all seen that through Ellen. Ellen wears, her forward facing persona is shorter haircut in a suit and or a sports coat, which is my favorite look. But then her wife, Portia de Rossi, is hyper feminine. And so that can happen. And so that's something that might be different. But that's also something I can see in the straight community where I've seen, yes, she literally wears the pants in the family, and she's got maybe a more feminine artistic husband, but they're still distinctly heterosexual male female. It's just that masculine feminine energy is the most beautiful thing to see expressed in a relationship. And yeah, when we're holding hands, if you want to call me the wife, I'll be the wife. I think that's a compliment. But then there are times behind closed doors that I'm the more masculine one. I think my husband is more likely to cry at something than I am. Actually, we're both big criers, but I think that's a beautiful thing that is worth examining in a relationship and appreciating. It's like there are times that I'm more masculine than Jim and vice versa. And I think that's a beautiful compliment to each other. And sometimes I think that's part of what plays into opposites might attract to some degree. But then sometimes, and I'm sure you've found this, people like to date their twin or the opposite. Black white couples or Asian white couples, or that's, my parents were Asian and white. It's just so funny. So all those things that build this beautiful thing called love, and the wide variety. And so masculine and feminine energies is one of those mysteries of the universe.
Do you believe in love at first sight or no?
Well, when I saw Jim, I wouldn't say I fell in love. And the fact that the universe put him in front of me again, was that love at first sight? I've never thought of that, but I think it's, and the other thing that I encourage with my clients is, listen, your first date, the goal is not, I love what you said, you're not wearing your wedding dress to the date. That was the best. The goal is just to make a connection and be you. And if you make a connection, a great next goal is a second date. And then you can ask all the serious questions, second and third date. But do you have a connection? Don't worry about, was there a spark? Don't put yourself under that pressure, But I don't know. I guess I have to say I do. But it doesn't have to be that way, because people can fall in love over time, which I think. So I fell in lust with someone. I knew something was different. And then I didn't see him for months. And then love grew over time. I just kept wanting to be with him, and I didn't know why. And then I fell in love. So was it love at first sight? In the span of a lifetime, it is. See, now I'm starting to split words.
Well, I think what you said, the love at first sight and chemistry, and is there a connection or spark? I think dating is a game. You call it a dating game or whatever people call it. But I feel like your goal when you go on a first date, whether you're a guy or girl, the goal is to get a second date. The goal is to be pleasant enough where that person is curious about you and wants to see you again, whether it felt neutral or positive. You want to be a pleasant enough person to get a second date, whether you want to see this person or not. It doesn't matter. Just be so kind, considerate enough where someone wants to see you again. Okay. Then you have the option of rejecting them and saying no. Okay. But at least we know that's your goal in this dating game. Be nice so you get a second date. Now, the word connection or spark, that can mean two different things, right? I like what you said. Like, if you felt like there was a connection, you like talking to this person, you can see yourself going on another date, then go out on another date. But it doesn't have to be a spark where you're like, oh my gosh, I think I want to kiss him or her. Or, oh my gosh, I think I want to get naked with him or her. Like, those feelings don't have to happen on the first date for you to want a second date. Like, your goal is just to get a second date so you can see if you want to kiss them on the second or third date, right? Like, that's kind of what I like to tell my clients. Like, don't put so much pressure on the first date, because again, even meeting a platonic friend to be friends with, I don't put all that pressure. Like, hey, I just meet this new woman in my life at a networking function. I'm not going to put all this pressure on her and be like, okay, do I want to see her again? Do I want to like network with her again? Do I want to hang out with her again? It's like, just see if you like them enough to want to exchange numbers and then go with the flow.
Absolutely. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier about other ways to meet people, as a matchmaker, I'll just say we have to stalk social media. Like, who are you already friends with? Who can I see putting into your friend group and all that kind of stuff? And I also tell all my clients, it's like, and anyone listening, if you're a guy looking for a guy, girl looking for a girl, actually, I've got a lot of straight friends too, but go to my Facebook page, and if there's someone cute, click on them and then see if they're in a relationship or something. Like, That's another version of an app is, well, all social media. If you want to look for people that you think are cute, don't think of it as stalking, just think of it as research.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time today. Before we part ways, can you tell people exactly who you want to work with, how they can get in touch with you? Obviously, I will include all that information in the show notes, but just any last parting thoughts?
Thank you so much. And number one, you're amazing. And thank you for having me today. But yes, I am R. Tony Smith, Denver's Cupid, Colorado's gay matchmaker. We do executive matchmaking for exceptional LGBTQ singles. We also do events. I'd be happy to work with you. Go to denverscupid.com on all social media and our website to learn more. And I hope to meet you soon.
Thank you so much, Tony. And ladies, if you're out there and you're single, men or women, I would love to get in touch with you. Please go to twoasianmatchmakers.com, fill out a profile so I know where to find you in case I have a great guy to set you up with. And for the listeners out there, if you want to get in touch with Tony, he's a great matchmaker, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you. Bye, Tony.
Bye. Thank you.